If you're learning to improvise over giant steps, then here are 5 exercises that will get you going. If you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my Patreon, where I have loads more lessons and you can even get some one-on-one feedback on your playing from me. But let's get into it. This is how to improvise over giant steps, and it all starts with learning the melody and learning the chords. Don't just learn to play the melody, but also learn to sing the melody. It's easy to get lost when singing this, so just make sure you're ending and starting on the same note. Now learn to arpeggiate all the chords throughout the tune. Now to the first exercise that will actually be applicable when playing over giant steps, and that is to play 1, 2, 3, 5 of each chord. And this is something Coltrane does all the time in his solo on the original recording of Giant Steps. Next exercise is going to be this. All I'm doing is I'm starting on the third of the first chord. Third, 1, 7, flat 7, 1, third. 1, 7, flat 7, 1, third. Whenever there's a 2 chord, I'll start on the 5th, and whenever there's a 5 chord, I will start on the 1. And that sort of builds into this next exercise, where I'm doing pretty much the same, except I'm adding some notes to a couple of places within the phrase. So for instance, on the first chord, where I'm starting on the 3rd, I'll play 3, 1, 2, 3. And then when I move into the dominant chord, I do the same as I did before, but resolving to the 3rd again, I will do that same pattern. 3, 1, 2, 3. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 7, flat 7, 1. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 7, flat 7, 1. 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And that sounds something like this. Now that is all great, but that's kind of a pattern-based approach. Now on the other hand, you can play some stuff that's going to help you play more freely over the chords. And a great way to do that is to play chord scales over the form of the tune. But instead of starting every chord scale from the root, you just keep going from wherever you ended up on the last chord scale. So it should all sound like a continuous scale going up and down, but you're actually changing chord scales in the middle of the scale. And that sounds something like this. Now there are so many different possibilities here that it's not going to sound the same every time, depending on where you change directions. And you can change directions more often, or you can do full range. But this is just a great way to make sure you're actually comfortable with the chord scales over all the chords of the tune. And if that's too challenging for you to just do on the spot and in your head, you can write out some chord scales like that. Now when I hear people soloing over giant steps, there are some different approaches that people take, and what I tend to like more is a more modern approach that is not as pattern based. And a great way for me to add some more chromaticism and some more like weaving through the chords in a sneaky way is to use George Garson's triadic chromatic approach. And you can learn more about that on my Patreon page, or if you reach out to me directly for lessons. But here is just a part of that concept that is really great for adding some chromaticism into your playing. And the exercise that George gives us is to play within the range of a major third. And you can play all the chromatic notes within that major third, but you got to make it sound not like a pattern. So an example of a pattern would be like this. That is a repeating pattern, but George wants us to make it sound as random as possible, like this. That gives your ears much less to latch onto, and it's a great way to add chromaticism into anything you're playing, really. And if you resolve that the right way, it's going to sound really killing. Now practice that slowly, like really slowly, to make sure that you're not sounding like a pattern, but you're sounding random. And do one major third at a time throughout the entire range of your instrument. And once you're comfortable doing that, you can start moving that major third around as you're playing. So here's what that sounds like if I weave through the chords of giant steps using a lot of the chromatic approach from George Garson's triadic chromatic approach, but also landing on some of the harmonies. So that's a way to not hit all the chords as strictly, but still sounding like you know what you're doing.